I want to welcome you to Dream Chasers Radio with me, your host, Yaya Diamond. What's up, peoples? How you doing? It is a great day, and I'm so very excited to be here. We have an amazing author on the show today, and that is the QR code so that you can go ahead and go and check out Donnie Malone. That is the book we're going to be talking about, and we do have Paul on the show today, and I don't want to torture his last name because you guys know sometimes I just don't pronounce things properly. But we do have Paul on the show. Welcome to the show, Paul. Thank you so much for joining us. I too so much appreciate you being here.
Well, I appreciate you inviting me here. So, looking
No
forward to
problem. So tell us about yourself, Paul. You're an author. Was this something you've always done?
it. No, I was a professor of history for 30 years, which I loved doing. And my tact in the classroom was to tell stories rather
Mhm.
than tell history as, people and places and names and dates and that sort of thing. I told stories. I'd tell a story about what was happening, and I'd put all the data in there, but I do it in a story form. And and that's where I became a storyteller. Um, Up until I retired, which was a couple of years ago, I did history things. I written a couple of nonfiction books, and I did lots of articles and that sort of thing. But when I retired, I took some of the stories that I had been telling for years and years and years and corrupted them a little bit to make them the way I wanted them to end.
Mm.
And out came the book, the story. Um, so I guess I've always been interested in or wanted to write these stories, but for most of my life, I've written them in the form of nonfiction lectures. When I didn't have to do that anymore, I got to tell the story the way I wanted to tell it.
I hear you. I hear you. You know, the story is so realistic. I mean, okay, is Donnie Malone your uncle?
No, Donnie Malone's not my uncle. I've had reviewers who have reviewed the book as if he was my uncle,
Oh my gosh.
which it's kind of I don't know, interesting. They've commented, oh, everybody should. In fact, the last line of the book I think is everyone should have an Uncle Don, and they've said that. I had a great uncle, my grandmother's older brother, who was a flyer at the end of World War One, very end. He never flew, in the military. He learned how to fly, and then
Mhm.
after the war, he flew a little bit. And as a historian, I looked, I thought this is interesting, and I just sort of picked away at some information, and I've I learned what a flyer would have gone through in 1918, 1919, and that was the beginning of the story. But everything that's as close to having a real person in this book as I came. Everything else is purely fiction.
Oh my gosh. Oh
So,
wow. Oh
oh,
wow.
it was fun. Yeah, it was fun writing it.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, so you said that in your classrooms you would teach like stories and all this stuff.
Mhm.
Was this one of the stories that was like kind of influenced
Well,
by your teaching?
this specifically wasn't a story that I taught through my teaching, but I did teach about when I taught, for instance, when I taught wars,
Mm-hmm.
historians do. I am not a war person. I would teach the things, not the battles and not the, who won what battle, but I would teach the things that happened, like learning to fly, the way that a new flyer adjusted to, to military life. So I take these things, these pieces, and incorporate them into my lectures, basically. Um, but just bits and pieces. Writing the book gave me an opportunity to really go into what I envisioned as that experience. I don't
Nice.
know if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, it does. It really does. And and it's so cool to see a teacher really love what what they do. I had a history teacher and he did the same thing. He would put stuff in like these story formats that was so interesting that we never failed a test. It was just
Yeah.
amazing how that whole story we remembered it. It was like, okay, and it was a continuation. So is there a continuation of Donnie Malone?
No, I think Donnie's story is over now. I have another story that I'm working on. It's set in the mid 1920s, and it involves Philadelphia and gangsters in Philadelphia and the sesquicentennial in Philadelphia and the Tunney Dempsey fights. One was in Philadelphia, one was in Chicago. So it's a completely different story.
Oh, okay. Well,
Donnie's story is over.
oh my gosh, he's dead. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, he died at the end of the book, so
Oh no! I didn't know I didn't say that.
I don't want to be a spoiler, but you know,
But I mean
he was,
everybody has a story, and at the end of everyone's story, we all go.
yeah. Well, he was born in 1901, so for him to
Yeah.
be around, he'd be ancient.
Yeah, he would be a vampire. He would be a vampire. My gosh. So, okay, so what is the central story to Mr. Donnie Malone?
Well, there are a couple of central themes. One of them, one of them is that nobody wins a war. The winner is the one who loses the least.
Mm,
And then another theme is the attachments of family, that you don't need to be with your family, physically with your family all the time, but that you can be with them spiritually and emotionally, and that's a fortifying element in Donnie's life, in
right.
most people's lives. So it's not being separated from your family, even though you're separated from your family. You're still part of the family. So that's another theme. And I guess a third theme would be that life throws curveballs at you all the time, and you can strike out and go back to the dugout and moan, and or you can look for the next pitch, and just put that curveball behind you and go up to the plate and be ready to swing again.
Hmm.
So yeah,
So
so that's another theme.
that is so cool. You're right. You're right. I mean, you can moan and groan, or you can get back out of that dugout, dig your feet in that red dirt, and go for bat again. How about that?
That's right. Yeah, yeah. And if you let things get to you, then you're going to have a high mountain to climb.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah. Definitely.
that's another theme. That's a third theme. So
Definitely. What do you do when you're not writing? Do you read? Are you an avid reader?
oh, I am a very avid reader. I've been an avid reader all my life. In fact, I have a time every day from about 3:30 until about 6 o'clock. Um, that actually I call it wine time. I have a glass of
Ah.
wine. I have a glass of wine, and I read. And I read not for the most part. I read fiction. I'm reading a piece of nonfiction right now, but
Hmm.
it's reading time. So I dedicate a couple of hours every day to reading, and then that I read other things during the day, but those 2.5 hours are reading time, and
Okay.
I love to read. I There are a few things I like better than a really well told story. I don't care if it's fiction or nonfiction. If it's well told, I like it.
Sweet. Sweet. So
Beyond that,
yeah, tell me beyond that, please. Go ahead.
I am a an avid softball player. I play.
What?
Oh yeah, I play 5 and 6 times, at least 5 and 6 times a week. Um, I live in Cape Cod, and we have a senior softball circuit, and it's very competitive. And
Mm, I'm sure.
there are some really good players, some former professional players, And it's a lot of fun. So that's another activity.
I love that. I love that. Staying active, you got to stay active.
Oh,
That
absolutely.
between your brain and your body, if you stay active, you can live a beautiful life all the way
Yeah.
through. You don't have to, you know what I mean? We're all going to kind of disintegrate later, but we need to live life now. You know what I mean?
And
Yeah,
I can attest to that. I am disintegrating in little bits and pieces all the time. My ankles and
that's
back.
okay.
Uh,
I
but
think I've begun the journey of disintegration.
yeah, but if you keep moving, you know,
Yeah,
it doesn't bother me anyways. It doesn't
exactly.
bother as much.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So, you used to be a teacher and now you're a softball player and an author. I mean,
Yeah.
okay. But what I'm trying to figure out, okay, is so did you bring some of that knowledge that you had during your teaching time into your process of writing? And what is that?
Yeah, I did on a couple of different levels. Of course, the information, the data kind of information, the research, and that's the other thing in writing this book. And anything I write, I really like to research. Um,
Mm,
so this gives me an opportunity to research um, without having to do hardcore sort of
yeah.
academic work. Um, so that's part of I guess my training. Um, the other thing I've 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 worked at becoming a good writer, and I in my teaching I'd always have my students do some kind of major research paper, and I would focus on as much on the writing as I did on the research they did. So that comes into play. And there are other pieces. I mean, for instance, in Donnie Malone, um, there are little threads of baseball that are woven into the story. Donnie meets Babe Ruth, and he and a friend, actually they own a team in the Negro leagues, they called them then.
Right.
Um, so yeah, so stuff that has been part of my life in bits and pieces comes into Donnie Malone and into really any writing I do. May not be Babe Ruth in the Negro Leagues, but um, you know,
Yeah.
whatever I write, I will include things that I know and that I like, and I
So
feel good about.
you've written other books?
I've got two others. One is a very sort of scholarly book. It's about Jacksonian democracy,
Hmm. Okay.
and it's sold in the tens.
Wow.
I've sold probably 10 copies of it.
Well.
I have another one that's about the 1926 baseball season,
Mm.
and it talks about it was a great year and two good teams and so on and so forth. But I narrate the season, but I also incorporate into every chapter a biographical sketch of one of the players, and I do a historical piece. For instance, one of the in one of the chapters, uh, I talk about Valentino's death. Spend about
Oh.
a third of the chapter, maybe a quarter of the chapter, talking about Valentino's death, which was really, in New York, it was the biggest event since Lincoln's death, and there are all sorts of good accounts of it. And so I do that. My idea was that I'd get people who wanted to read about baseball. I would sort of trick them into reading about history as well. So, and that one,
Sneaky, man. You're sneaky.
well, it's part of the game.
Yeah, it's part of your life, though. You were a history teacher. I mean, you can't resist the urge.
And that's the thing, is that what I write is what I like.
Mhm.
Um, when I do history and you do the analytical stuff and the data, sometimes it's not. I don't like data analysis.
Mhm.
You got to do it, but in my writing, I can do whatever I want,
Yeah.
and I can bring in stories, you know, that
Yeah.
I like. So
Yeah,
that's what I do.
that is amazing. I
You
want to
have
hear
to
it. Oh
do.
my gosh.
Hmm?
I said, that's
You
amazing.
have
Thank
to do,
you.
yeah, you have to do what you like to do, or you're not going to do it well. That's part of my attitude, I guess.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Paul, for being on the show. I totally appreciate it. And what a wonderful way to express yourself. I mean, I'm sure that your students truly admired you, but not only that, remember you. You've left a legacy. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Yaya. I appreciate it. It's been a very nice interview.
Oh, thank you. And you know what? We have a little bit ways to go because we have that QR code up in the corner over there that people can actually go ahead and scan and get that book right there. So, The Many Adventures of Donnie Malone. You got to go ahead and check it out. And I hear somebody drew the cover. Tell me about this.
I shouldn't have told you that. Yeah, yeah. It's my painting. I did do the painting.
You did. That is, we have to take a look at this. And let me just look at that painting. Look at that. That is just gorgeous. I mean, that is so good. I mean, look at the plane. My plane will not look like that. I mean, the clouds even have shadows. I
Yeah.
mean, okay, yeah, no, 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 not me. I couldn't do it. No, I'm the queen of stick figures. I'm the queen of shapes, but definitely not the queen of that. So, kudos to you for the artwork that you did there for your book. I know that you were saying how you really had a picture in your mind about the way that you wanted it to look, and this is exactly what you wanted, and you got what you wanted, and you did it. You did it.
Yeah.
How we say, fist bump right there. Woo woo.
Where am I? I'm around here somewhere. There we go.
Around
Yeah.
here somewhere. Well, thank you so much, Paul, for being on the show. I truly appreciate it. It's just been a pleasure, and I'm just so happy for you. Again, guys, while you're looking at this, the QR code has been in the corner the entire time. Up near Paul, right there, says Donnie Malone. Go ahead and check that out for yourself. It's in the Yaya Diamond Book Club as well, so it'll be easy for you guys to find it. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to dare to be different. And until next time, guys, bye. All right, Paul.
Thanks a lot, Yaya. This was great.
No problem.
I had